Imagine stepping out of your house on a crisp Saturday morning, keys in hand, only to catch someone fumbling with the door of your brand new Ferrari. That's exactly the shock I experienced. The sun had barely crested the horizon, glinting off the sleek cherry-red curves of my car, when I spotted a figure leaning over the driver's side. At first, I assumed it was a neighbor, or maybe a valet somehow lost. But then my eyes settled on him, Karen's son. There was a brazen, almost theatrical confidence in his stance, a total sense of entitlement as if the car belonged to him. I had heard tales of people borrowing luxury vehicles, but nothing could prepare me for the surreal mix of disbelief and anger that hit me seeing it in person. And the explanation he offered? "My jaw almost hit the pavement. Don't worry," he said with a wide, smug grin. "My mom can fix anything." Those words hung in the air like a bad joke. He wasn't merely attempting theft. He truly believed that some magical maternal intervention could erase the consequences before they even happened. I froze for a moment, processing the audacity, the sheer detachment from reality. Who raises a kid to think like this? Who instills that level of invincibility? Then, as if following a script, he moved to hotwire the Ferrari. The interior lights flickered, the engine growled, and for a moment my heart sank. But the car alarm shrieked just in time. We didn't need the sirens. The neighbor's barking dog did enough to alert the entire block. Karen's son barely flinched. He casually leaned against the car, calm as a summer afternoon, repeating, "She'll fix this. Don't worry about it." It hit me then. I wasn't dealing with an ordinary petty thief. This was a child so coddled, so insulated from reality, that consequences were incomprehensible to him. This wasn't just a theft attempt. It was a chilling lesson in entitlement, a peek into a life constructed around privilege and absolution. By the time the police arrived, a crowd had gathered, buzzing with disbelief and whispered amusement. Karen's son tried to explain himself, waving his hands, pointing at his mother, insisting she would sort everything out. The officers looked at him, shook their heads, and calmly secured him in handcuffs. Relief washed over me, tinged with disbelief. The Ferrari was safe. But the story was far from over. I soon learned that this encounter was only the opening act of a saga that would escalate into courtroom drama. Media attention, and an education in unchecked parental confidence, with me right in the middle. That evening, my phone buzzed relentlessly. It was her, Karen, mother of the would-be thief. Calm, confident, and somehow unbothered by the audacity of her son's actions, she sounded almost amused. "Don't worry," she said smoothly. "I can fix anything." Her reputation wasn't an exaggeration. It was a shield. She truly believed she could manipulate outcomes, charm anyone, and erase any trace of consequence. The next morning, Karen arrived at my house. She walked in with the serene, self-assured smile of someone entering her own living room. I braced for confrontation, for an apology, but instead she radiated unwavering confidence. "He didn't mean any harm," she began, sitting as if she owned the space. "Kids make mistakes. You just need to understand his perspective." Every word was measured, carefully designed to disarm, confuse, and redirect blame. But it wasn't just about her son. Karen had spent years cultivating a world where rules were optional and consequences applied only to other people. She had built a bubble of privilege around him, and now that bubble was colliding with reality, the Ferrari, the neighbors, the police report. And she genuinely believed her charm could smooth everything over. She tried to negotiate, offering explanations and promises. "We'll pay for any damages," she said, though the car hadn't even been scratched. He just panicked. He didn't know what he was doing. Each sentence sounded rehearsed, a carefully honed performance delivered countless times before. It was manipulative brilliance, equal parts terrifying and fascinating. I realized that Karen wasn't just protecting her son. She was testing boundaries, gauging how far her influence could stretch. By the end of our meeting, I understood something vital. This wasn't about a car. It was about power, entitlement, and a parent who convinced her child that laws and ethics were negotiable. I left unsettled, knowing this story wasn't finished. Her confidence suggested she might attempt to bend the system, twist the truth, or involve lawyers before letting reality catch up to her son. And reality did, faster than anyone expected. Karen's son would soon face consequences that even her charm and confidence could not undo. The law doesn't bend for maternal assurances or rehearsed speeches. It only responds to actions. And the courtroom was about to deliver a lesson neither mother nor son would forget. The morning of the court hearing came faster than I expected. Walking into the courthouse, the rich scent of polished wood and fresh coffee filled the air, and I thought, this is it. This is where fantasies of invincibility meet reality. Karen's son sat at the defendant's table, nervous, but still clinging to that misplaced confidence. Beside him, of course, was Karen herself, calm and composed, radiating the unshakable aura of someone who believed she could charm her way through anything. When the judge entered, the courtroom fell silent. As the proceedings began, it quickly became clear just how unprepared the kid was for real-world consequences. He stumbled through his explanation, repeating the same mantra about how his mom could fix everything. The judge didn't flinch. Karen, meanwhile, leaned in, speaking in measured, soothing tones, attempting to sway anyone within earshot. But the law isn't swayed by charm or rehearsed words. This was no longer a story or a reputation. It was an attempted felony, and the stakes were real. Witnesses were called. I recounted the exact moment I caught him at the Ferrari, describing the audacity, his words, and the sheer disbelief of the scene. Neighbors corroborated, adding details that made the story feel almost cinematic. The defense tried to downplay the situation, emphasizing his youth and insisting he had no intent to permanently steal the car. But the prosecution laid out the facts clearly. Entitlement doesn't excuse breaking the law. As the hearing progressed, I watched Karen's confident mask begin to crack. She whispered reassurances to her son, promising she would handle it, but the judge's steady gaze and the weight of the evidence left no room for magic fixes. Every attempt at manipulation was met with polite but firm judicial indifference. Watching a lifetime of overconfidence collide with reality was both fascinating and, frankly, satisfying. When the verdict was announced, the tension in the room was palpable. Karen's son was found guilty of attempted grand theft auto. The judge emphasized that attempts, regardless of maternal intervention, carry serious consequences. He was sentenced to a period of juvenile detention, along with probation and mandatory counseling. Karen sat frozen, her usual composure shattered, realizing that even she couldn't override the system. It was a stark, powerful moment, a reminder that privilege and parental overconfidence can only shield someone for so long. Eventually, reality catches up, and for Karen's son, that courtroom marked the end of a bubble built on entitlement and the start of a new, challenging journey into accountability. The days after the court ruling felt surreal. Karen's son was in juvenile detention, and the neighborhood buzzed with speculation. People wanted to understand how someone could be so audacious, and how a parent could be so confident in her ability to fix anything. For me, the relief of knowing my Ferrari was safe was tempered by the lingering shock of the whole ordeal. This wasn't just about a stolen car, it was about entitlement, boundaries, and the consequences of failing to teach accountability. Surprisingly, Karen reached out again. This time her tone had changed. Gone was the carefree arrogance. Instead, there was a quiet humility, a trace of regret, though still tinged with control. She wanted to discuss her son's future, asking for guidance on teaching him responsibility. It was a sharp contrast to the bravado she had once wielded like armor, a parent confronted with the limits of her influence. Some mistakes can't be erased, and some lessons must be learned the hard way. In the weeks that followed, change became evident. Karen's son attended mandatory counseling, forced to confront not only his actions, but also the upbringing that fueled his entitlement. Slowly, he began to grasp a reality he had never known. Actions have consequences, and privilege does not grant immunity. Progress wasn't instant, and it wasn't perfect, but for the first time he faced a challenge he couldn't talk or charm his way out of. The incident left me with a broader perspective. Witnessing someone else's failure, especially one shielded by overconfidence, serves as a powerful reminder of how fragile assumptions of control can be. Karen's story could have ended in tragedy, stolen property, legal trouble, or worse. But instead, it became a study in accountability, highlighting the limits of parental influence and the stark contrast between perception and reality. Looking back, the entire saga, from the audacious theft attempt to the courtroom drama and eventual lessons learned, felt almost cinematic. Chaotic, shocking, and yet profoundly instructive. My Ferrari remained untouched, but the real takeaway was deeper. No one is above consequence. And even the most confident people are often the first to be humbled. In the end, Karen's son learned a hard, necessary lesson. And Karen herself discovered that her reputation as someone who could fix anything had limits. As for me, I learned that vigilance, quick thinking, and a little patience can turn chaos into a story worth telling. A story about entitlement, audacity, and life's refusal to sugarcoat consequences. And so concluded the tale of a stolen Ferrari, a mother's overconfidence and a son's audacity, not with destruction, but with clarity, accountability, and a reminder that some lessons only land when reality steps in.